Well,
Right, good to see you.
good.
Was on there. Like all the world, all cell phones, so that. All places missing those time. So I had to come back. That's.
Done, it's on. That's kind of different.
Great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I've heard the Army. A lot of them,
There you go.
yeah, they live here, and they left their father, they left Iran in the '70s or, over that era. And they're not sure who to root for because they don't like Iran. But it's their own country,
Right.
you know.
That's, wow, another conflict and everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Adds up.
Yeah, Spain won the game today, which is almost like losing.
And you never know, time make a difference.
They tied Cabo Verde. Cabo Verde.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
I shouldn't diss Cabo Verde. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but sounds good. But still, not a soccer powerhouse.
This wasn't Spain, I think, predicted to.
Win the whole thing, yes. The only one yesterday was. That wasn't bad.
I see that in the flesh. She is well. Thank you. Beautiful. Yes, I felt like Alan Monroe in Love Story. It's the only time I came close to feeling like Alan Monroe.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Even have a good night. Yeah. Thursdays. Yeah. And the kids. Wife does help. So I was like. I was like, my our extension. It's a bit more answers, just kind of here, what who left. No, I'm. I really was surprised. I thought that's 2025, so it should be. I hope it is only not there. Michael Hardy, good to see you.
And I'm doing it.
Always a pleasure.
And
very good. That's nice.
Totally, I'm great.
One call.
Yes, so.
Yes, you got everything else, but you're right, we'll get that one. I do look like easy to work with, like, because it's some lost. I don't know if that's happening to stand over here. That's just. I guess. It's cool, I guess. Oh, allergic, but I still want to get some. Not in. Oh, there you go. Appreciate that he can just.
Yeah. We don't let anybody ask questions.
Yeah, I guess. Thinking more mass. The common and. Like farmers, it's pretty. Like. They looking in. Pretty sure. They would be one here, all for us. That. So there, yeah, I get this.
Michael, see my email about recusing yourself on the.
Yeah. Still reserved one.
I know.
Somebody wants to
I
do it.
don't have it, I can, I asked Susan, I didn't get it.
Could we test make sure that you're doing this now?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just,
Hold on, just try to.
identify that you're increasing yourself, identify if you haven't been it, so.
I heard it's very historic.
No, I started it because it's been a while.
I actually.
Put it around, I think that's how you've done it in the past.
7 o'clock, call to order is, the June 15th Board of Supervisors meeting. If you could please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of business is the consent agenda. Do I have any board comment?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Yeah, I have one thing to add, there's an element for reimbursing Michael for his PSATs attendance. So traditionally, what we do is he announces his recusal on that line item. We see that the minutes reflect it. And then there's a form that will attach to the minutes. Thanks for attending.
I'm recusing myself from that one item in the bills.
How was the meeting anyway?
It was good.
Good.
This time I went back and forth 2 days. That was a little much. Other than that, it was good.
All right, do I have any public comment? Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Let's have it. Moving on to board motion presentations and resolutions. First, authorization approval ratification of the township solicitor. Letter dated May 28, 2026 to council for Berwin owner. CSD at 533 regarding expiration of vested rights.
I think that one's for your lawyer.
Yes. Well, you are aware that we mailed the letter. This is ratifying that action and approving it as it was set.
So we just need a motion just to
I think so.
approve the.
Ratifying what was set.
I'll make a motion to authorize approval and ratification of the township solicitor letter.
Second.
Is there any public comment? All in favor of authorizing the letter, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Let's have it. Moving on to the insurance renewal.
Okay, I'll set this one up for you. I'll tell you who you have here and then we'll, this one will culminate in a vote. So traditionally, you renew circa May, June. You're traditionally looking to maintain the same coverages. You've got and usually there's a modest price increase, inflation oriented. This year, when the renewal was provided, it had a sizable increase in the deductibles and also a sizable increase in the premium. So the agent went out, found alternatives and evaluated them, has a recommendation for you. The distinctions, as I see it, is that you've had there's some deductibles that were in the 1 to 5 range have become as large as 25 for a handful of items. You've got a modest reduction in coverage limits that the agent is recommending that you address with an expansion of your umbrella coverage. The net price difference between the two isn't terribly much, a few $1,000s. And then some of the increase in the premium is offset by other premiums that went down, the workers' comp in particular went down. So ultimately, Isaac will speak for himself in a moment here, but he's going to recommend that you renew with Travelers with the package as it is in the proposal. Sue and I can speak to our knowledge of the history of your insurance and its use, things of that sort. Isaac can speak to any aspect of the policies that you have questions about. And I think it's his opinion that his recommendation, which is mine also, that you renew with the Travelers. He'll give you some of his sense of why, but there's enough in the deductible that makes it worth your while. There's a few savings in the premium, and Travelers is a reputable carrier. So Isaac,
That's right, but you said renew with Travelers, you can switch this out.
switch to Travelers.
Nice and I want to make sure I understood.
Okay. So
Don's rundown is that, and very accurate. Good job. I agree with that. So the township has tried it for going on, this would be the 6th year. Relationship with them has been strong. Some of the recent claims in the public officials area and in the commercial auto area have frightened them, given them some trepidation while underwriting your account. Which brings us to increased premiums as well as some increased deductibles that I can't in good faith endorse. So we looked to another alternative that had more reasonable deductibles and continued to cover liabilities at the limits previous. The terms, the policy formats, and the coverage formats are the same as expiring. The way we are organizing the risk as an actual policy count is different. Questions?
Ongoing things they're covering, trying to continue to cover even if we switch to travelers.
So, for the top 5 coverages on that comparison sheet are written on what's called an occurrence form. Meaning every day that passes, the carrier is ensuring that there is a one-to-one answer for the call. Those from public officials, excluding commercial auto, police professional, cyber employment practices, are written with claims made. Every day that goes by, that claim was not made against you. The carrier is not covered. The carrier that's covered on the day the claim is submitted, or the docket is filed, and work is the one that support.
So I'm just saying, things that already started, they'll continue to cover them.
Correct.
So even though we're switching carrier, we're still have a relationship, right?
Correct, and the forms are equal such that we don't have to translate between the two. It's a great question.
So the coverage is a little bit less on a few of the items over there. Have you analyzed them? Has staff analyzed them? Do we feel comfortable with decreasing the coverage in some of the areas that are highlighted on that?
So the difference is the umbrella, that kind
Yeah.
of you're seeing is that
Primarily, what you'll see is the aggregate limit, which is the second of the number after the slash, which is the statement for that one coverage, the most the carrier will pay out in that policy period. Township. We are continuing with a $10 million total aggregate coverage on top of each and every one of those liabilities. So while we lose 1 million of aggregate, we still have tantamount in the policy period, 12 million in aggregate. I believe it's sufficient for the benchmarking I've run.
So the excess liability that gets stacked on top of the umbrella.
Stacked.
I am not an insurance
It's okay.
professional. So.
It is, the umbrella is following form. So, the coverages that apply to the underlying policies, which are general liability, public officials liability, commercial auto liability, police professional liability, and employment practices liability. All of those work with just an extension of that coverage. The excess liability is yet another extension. It's as though they operate with one policy, but there's no retention in between the two. So if you pierce that veil, the underlying, excuse me, the umbrella 5 million per occurrence, the excess policy picks up first off.
so there could be a scenario where you had 13 million and now you have 12 million. I think what you're hearing is that sort of a remote scenario, 12 million is a ample and sufficient to traditional municipal insurance. Yeah. And then it does, it represents this idea that, if you said, no, just keep it the same, work with the same, we've been with, Trident, stay with Trident. You're gonna pay marginally more. Your risk is really on the deductible. So you have 2 or 3 events that could generate 75,000 in costs that would generate 15,000 in costs. You could have 0. It could do nothing, or it could be a 75. Arguably more, but pushing unlikely when you get to that.
The only other question is the crime coverage. Is that for like burglary of township property, for instance?
That crime coverage is both fiduciary and crime, so
Okay.
we are covering for theft by employees.
Got it.
And also theft by other stuff.
Okay, so it drops from 250K to 100K.
I think property was fine.
Mhm.
It says. Driving would charge us 64,000 this year. But travelers wants to charge 30,000. That just seems like such a huge difference.
It's the way that,
Are they missing something?
they are not, it's not an underwriting question, it is an organization of coverages and where they park them in a package. So, that portable equipment premium, right, much less as well. It's just simply where they park those premiums in their overall package that they're offering, bearing in mind that I could not go to Trident and say, I just want your auto. In their package.
Right.
So, which is why, you know, our subtotals are so similar when you get to that.
So if you're inclined to change to the traveler's policy, you make a motion to authorize the staff to find the insurance for the traveler's policy as specified in the proposal. It's 482, 483. If you decided you wanted to stay with the Trident, you make a similar motion at the price tag is there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the difference is.
The difference between the two is about 4%.
495.
Take the entirety of the program, where trust workers' compensation premium down this year, which is largely reflective of our comp market.
Right.
Total thing for the country.
They've done good for us. I need to drop it just,
You know, this was not a year where Don and I, in our strategy sessions, wanted to go to market. My intention was, okay, Trident's probably going to, because of some of the claims activity, increase premiums. Not only did they increase premiums, they applied deductibles that frankly I see as untenable. $25,000 general liability, that's a very rare deductible.
So it's not being insured,
is it
basically.
like a signal that's, is it a signal we don't want to continue? Or is it-
Yeah.
And I can't speak for those underwriters, they are constantly contacting me and asking how it's going, and how it's going, so. They're interested in continuing the relationship. But some of the coverages and the terms they provided do not reflect that.
What kind of increases are you seeing in other similar municipalities?
So, let me say first that across commercial insurance largely, commercial auto coverage for liability and physical damage is skyrocketing. Any insurance journal will have an article about how these carriers cannot get in front of the claims that they're incoming. So lots of reasons why we have to get into that. So there's upward pressure on all commercial insurance to that extent. We happen to have quite a few vehicles in the township, many with special equipment that are difficult to repair or replace. Not with hard to find parts, just time and labor to repair and replace. So that's upward pressure on that as well. We're also seeing upward pressure on police professionals just because of social inflation. And umbrella and excess liability as evidenced by the way I formatted the program in my recommendation. The relationships between reinsurers who actually insure insurance companies and the insurance carrier market we think of was totally upended 3 or 4 years ago. The treaties, the way they write it, the attachment points. It's as if they had a playbook they were running for 100 years and doing it. So there's been a tremendous amount of upheaval inside that excess liability umbrella.
So Lloyd's or whoever's doing the reinsurance, that they're increasing the premiums on the insurance carriers, so they're increasing on us.
They're
So the umbrella, for instance, the excess liability is double.
Mhm.
You know, in comparison, it's 36,000, now it's gonna be 71,000. That's a lot.
And if you look at the upward trend, even within the Trident, that is a considerable uptick, $12,000 year over year. Yeah, it's quite startling what we're seeing in the excess liability. That was a lot. I hope I answered your question.
I'll make a motion to approve the switch to travelers, as shown in the packet.
Any public comment?
Yes, I was going to ask a few questions.
Yeah.
I heard a couple of comments.
Sorry, name and,
I'm sorry, Jay Jansen, 2021 grant map. I heard a couple of comments that I'd just like to get some clarification on. You mentioned that there was some trepidation about the auto insurance from the insurers. What would cause that trepidation?
Specifically to the township or across?
You said trepidation. I heard that and I was like, right, this, sure, I'm a resident. I travel a lot, so I'm not here a lot, but my observations are that every township vehicle I see, great drivers, pay attention to the rules. I don't see township vehicles involved in accidents. I don't hear about it. What would cause trepidation from the insurance carrier's point?
We do have some active claims right now involving township vehicles. The plaintiffs in some of these cases see dollar signs and they apply extremely aggressive demands once it is found out that it's a township vehicle. If it isn't emblazoned, we'll often see that where.
So that was the claims activity you referred to.
There has been some claims activity, but speaking generally, if just a township vehicle that's unmarked or conspicuously marked, inconspicuously marked, we'll get that initial demand after at-fault injury. And within months, it will skyrocket. The demands, the injuries, they will expand in this litigious society. And as has happened with some of the cases, claims with the township, the initial demand from the plaintiff was typical what you would see for an accident with two cars if this would happen, and then it expands and grows and the claim matures.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's a shame as a member of the public, I can't ask them to go off the record so I can make other comments, but I will refrain.
Any other public comment? In favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac.
To reserve fund investment policy.
Yeah, so, this has been brewing for probably more than a year. You've worked this one through ECAC. The idea was to create a reserve and, 5 specific functions for that reserve. It's, coming to fruition. It's not new, like we've, told you about. The sources of the funds, the timing, it's becoming right to proceed with it. So the first resolution, gives us the authority to set up the funds. And then the second is a reserve fund investment policy statement. It's also been worked through ECAC. It's right, mature, it's sort of ready to go. We're not gonna, if you approve this, we're gonna set up the funds and start initiating processes, but this isn't going to make any investments. All the investments, any particular investment will come back to you as a specific cash amount with a specific investment vehicle through the process outlined in this. So, if this was a football game, it would be the coin flip, maybe the kickoff, it wouldn't be a touchdown running play. So you got some ECAC folk here, they can speak to it. They were involved in it. If any of them want to speak to it, Michael was involved in it. It's more than a year in the making, so it's not like we just came up with it, in the spur of the moment, threw it together. It's had a lot of people involved in it.
Don, would this require 2 separate actions or just one combined action?
Let's just do it as 2 separate options, right?
Yeah, and it makes sense that, we'd love to hear ECAC's recommendation for this reserve fund. Like I saw stuff in there that said investing in treasury bills, and yeah, that could make sense. But if it's to be used to smooth out,
Yeah,
lumpy,
yeah, agree.
like T-bills won't really do a good job of that, so like,
So, it's set up to do that. It's set up to give you the right blend of, easy enough to be simple, but complex enough to match as necessary. ECAC did review it. ECAC did recommend the approval of it at its last meeting. And in it, it says, ECAC is basically the delegate. So all the stuff that before it comes to you with a decision, it'll go to ECAC. And you'll get a recommendation from ECAC about how to apply the reserve fund.
Yeah, just real quick, Howard Haas, Lazy Trail. So one of the things about this, it's laddered. So in terms of liquidity, the objective is to make sure that there's funds available in any given year. As we have funds go into it, you'll continue to get an update on what the rates are gonna be. But all the vehicles that we have are pretty much standard form for a township, right? It's very secure, like we were mentioning, treasuries and things like that, CDs, et cetera. So,
Right. And they just have variable maturities, so you always have a little bit coming through and you just roll them over, that kind of thing.
Yes, and it's got a setup where, it's got 3 minimum touch points, early year touch point to evaluate last year. And end of year touch point to evaluate what you might want to do next year, and then a little midpoint touch point, so. Hey, it's a good idea, we'll see if we can, make it work for you.
So, the motions are being written to authorize the creation and then.
Yeah, approve resolution, 2612, creating the reserve fund.
Okay.
And then a subsequent resolution to, approve the investment policy statement for the reserve fund.
Just a typo point out, just so you're aware, have that, sign it. Yeah.
we'll print a new one for you.
Yeah. It's the
We noticed it after it went to print, so we couldn't change it.
teacher.
Yeah.
See, pops out.
It's on the list for tomorrow.
I see it, I see it.
Yeah.
Red pen.
Yeah, Mark, 10.
You don't use it.
In some cultures, it is spelled that way, but we choose not to.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I still don't see who's gonna be the manager of this.
Well, so this is not it's not like a pension fund, so it's not like PFM.
Right.
So, who's gonna be the manager will be the Board of Supervisors. So, and that's stated expressly, that's one of the changes that was added, where it expressly states that the board holds all the decision makers. It allows you could go to the bank and you could invest this money at the bank if you wanted to.
They're not a fiduciary, so it says investments will be made through a fiduciary.
Well, I think the bank would, okay, then Pliget is, this is sort of built around that kind of model.
Okay, that's where I was getting at, it really is Pliget is what we're doing.
Yeah, but we're not, it's not
We don't want to limit.
committing you to that, because if you wanted to find someone else to do that. But it's not like a pension, it doesn't have a pension fund manager and an asset, it doesn't have distinct entities making recommendations.
Right. Okay, so it's built, so without saying it to cover up that Pliget manager.
Pliget is a fiduciary, so it's built to have a fiduciary manage it, and
Right.
Pliget is one of the fiduciaries. And we've worked with Pliget to get it to this point.
Okay.
So yes, I think that's the intention, but you have the obligation of doing that elsewhere, if you chose to do that.
No,
Anything to add to that? Did I capture that correctly? That's the spirit of what we talked about.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable moving forward that way. I just want to make sure.
And did I hear correct? Is it okay to public comment? No. You want me to wait? I'll wait.
Yeah, first we need to make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Wrong one.
So we're gonna did you act on the resolution? I don't.
Did we make a motion for that?
No, we're gonna.
We'll make a motion to react on resolution 2026-12, a resolution authorizing the creation and operation of a reserve fund, the reserve.
I'll second that.
Public comment?
Thank you. Just a kind of a point of order. I heard that there was going to be do I need to say my name again, Sue? No? Okay. I heard there was gonna be a kind of a relationship between the board and ECAC, looking to ECAC for these recommendations. I wasn't clear if that was recommendations on how to run this, or, as I just heard, the ultimate decision making is the board. But is the board going to rely on ECAC for decision guidance, much like they do with other committees?
It sounds like it's both. It's left vague in here, and I think I wasn't involved in the creation, but it sounds like that was intentional because we don't want it to be prescriptive, but it says the township desires that the ECAC be its delegate for monitoring and reporting in accordance with the IPS.
So there's no vague, I mean, it's absolutely certain that ECAC is making recommendations to you on it. It's absolutely certain that you are making the decisions.
Correct.
So it's written to be that way expressly, purposefully, that it's not like EMA where zoning hearing board where certain decisions are referred to others. They make recommendations to you and then you decide if you want to take it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, all in favor of the resolution authorizing the creation and operation of the reserve fund, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it. And we have to make a second.
Just a motion for the,
These township reserve fund investment policy statement.
Correct. So move the button.
Second.
Is there any public comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Eric, you good?
Minutes are gonna reflect the yes unless we are.
Abstain.
I didn't actually hear what were we voting on?
So it's a two-part motion. The first one was for establishing the fund.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. I didn't catch, I was unclear on the audio. Thanks for clarifying.
All those. Okay, I got it. Moving on to,
Omnibus amendments?
yes.
Yeah, so, again, not first time, straightforward, talked about these, you've seen them all before, you talked about them in concept, you've seen the details before. This step is, authorizing, motion to approve legal advertising for the proposed omnibus ordinance amendments.
Correct. Make a motion to approve legal advertising of the proposed omnibus ordinance amending CH388, stormwater management with final action by the BOS it'll be here. Do I have a second? Is there any public comment? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Have it. Moving on to departmental reports. Have anything you want to pull out?
No, we'll just respond to any inquiries that you've put up.
Board comment? Eric, any board comment? Or, there it is. Where did it move? Got another comment. Okay. Just move on. Moving on to regular business, budget calendar 2027 budget.
Yes, we've done this the last couple of years, just sort of map out the fall as best we can. It's identical to what you did last time, just in everybody's best interest for you to see that. If you want it done differently, let us know, otherwise we'll just proceed as we've indicated here.
This is not a motion.
I don't know that you need one, it's just it's up to you all. Yeah.
We're almost in budget season already. I'm
Is there any comment?
Some people say it shouldn't happen all year round.
Any comment on budget calendar?
My only question is, because we now have the TEFC and they're going to plan, does that change anything?
Well, it shouldn't, really that sort of backwards, they shouldn't change you at all, we should change them. You have these robust deadlines that you must meet.
Right.
And the obligation is upon them to meet those robust, because you can't not meet them.
I think the distinction is gonna be we're going to finalize what we're going to give to TFC earlier than the end of the budget cycle.
So, yeah, I wouldn't, to me,
That's what we agreed to in the agreement. We agreed to.
Then I guess it does change things, because like you have deadlines on when you have to pass a budget. And if one of the groups that you support can't meet that deadline, my sense is you make them change to you. But if you're gonna change to them, then
We tried that, they wouldn't agree to it, so I think it's like November 1st or something.
Yeah.
We have to finalize the, and
But
then,
you can't really finalize a budget. You can't even initially propose a budget then. So,
no, it's just mentally, we have to say, okay, this X number of dollars is going to the fire company, no matter what else we're doing.
yeah, so arguably it means that at some point you're gonna have a discussion about fire EMS, and that can be one of those sessions.
Like we have just a separate motion, just to basically say we plan to commit this
I
amount.
don't know if we have to have a motion, it's just, it's gonna be locked in earlier than anything else. Everything else is floating until we vote on it. That one item, we essentially have agreed to it earlier. That's, again, that's what the agreement said,
Yeah.
right? If you remember, we went back and forth on it.
No, I appreciate the heads up. I just don't know how it's gonna actually play out.
Yeah, yeah, I don't
Remember
think
during the
anybody
last, during the last budget season, they came in and they basically said, this is insufficient. Here's the reason for the ask. And I think we went back and we revised some stuff. So it's tough if it's 2 months before that and we're saying we're planning to commit X. And then it comes back and then like, it just makes it more difficult to revise it.
And it's a cascading thing because EFC is doing it earlier. That means the fire companies have to do it earlier.
Right.
Right, so they're gonna get finalized before we do the finalization, which, yeah.
Okay, all right. It's gonna get messy, but
It might work out, it might actually just work out, but I wanna make sure we're all set.
okay.
All right. Moving on to the.
And a bid? Yeah, so Sean, this was just your request to put it on, I put a little note in there that this is a common theme for us. It's a big in the chatter of the little managers work group that I'm in. It's in my planning magazine that I read from time to time. It's in the Wall Street Journal. So you can't escape this one. We kicked it around independent of this. We kicked it around. We don't see much risk for you for a variety of reasons. That doesn't mean you can't make some kind of minor adjustment to the code that would be sensible. There is some from the staff, there is some be guarded that you don't get consumed by this. You remember how long you took to rewrite the historic protection ordinance or even the beekeeping ordinance. So imagine beekeeping is easy relative to this. So there's a chance that you could get bogged down in something that is not terribly useful, but consumes you and costs you 40 grand and doesn't serve any purpose. So I think Sean, you just want to have a little general conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just something that I know that some residents write about it. There is concern, this town probably doesn't have the land that could contain such a large data center. But I know that it's something that our residents are concerned about. So I guess I was hoping we just see what we as a township can do to make sure we protect ourselves from having someone come in. So how our ordinances look, how that works.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think it's a good idea. We should discuss it at least, even if we decide to do nothing. I think it's a discussion we should have for sure. And I'm surprised that Conshohocken, that's not a cheap area, for instance, and there's 2 of them going up in that area, very contentious. So while I agree, I don't think our township's a good candidate for this. Like we've been surprised in the past. I would rather not get caught flat-footed on something like that. So better to discuss it now while it's still just a theoretical concept. We can get alignment. Than be surprised by something and then we're all trying to catch up. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So I know of 10 very big data centers within 10 miles of here. So there are a lot of data centers around there. They're there, they're out there. My understanding, and more legal question, but I'll say what I think is we don't allow for any use. They can go anywhere. If we allow for it in a specific area, then we've done our duty and then they can only be in that area.
In a very general sense, that's correct. Yes.
Right, so it's better for us to say PDO can have a data center in it than to have somebody come in and say, I'm going to put a data center in R4 with AA.
And again, it's very generally speaking here, but you do make those arguments when you don't provide for specific identified use within a certain district. You get those arguments, whether it's similar enough or whether you have a catch-all provision in the zoning ordinance that would permit it somewhere else. Potentially a different argument, but you're right. If you wanted to identify it in a specific place, it's usually more efficient than
One minimalist way to protect yourself is to identify it as a specific use and assign it a conditional use. And then that puts it through the full array of requirements of conditional use. And, you know, that county document that I sent you is a very useful document. And you could write volumes on how you want to restrict it.
Right.
That might be over the top for you, that'll be harder than the DQ ones. But, even just conditional use is so general, and so thorough, just the standard conditional use requirements would add some barrier that would force it through a public house.
I do get frustrated with conditional use process because we've talked about this before. It just feels like we have a gun to our head during the conditional use hearings, right? Like, it's like, well, we could deny this, but probably gonna get sued if we do that. So like, and then it goes to, hey, our insurance premiums are sky high. Like, you know, it's a circular.
So the conditional use doesn't make it, it's by right because it's by right. The conditional use just assigns additional requirements to the process. So, if you wanted that to push it through a public process that forced it to evaluate power and water and sewer and noise, then that would be one thing to do.
I'm still grappling with the idea that you see something like conditional use application, it's already gone through our engineers, our the planning commission, all these different lawyers, right? They already looked at it all, so by the time we get it, it does feel like it's a gun to our head, but they already made all those decisions. So maybe with a data center, we never even get to it.
Like, hey, this looks like it would really increase traffic. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Well, your traffic engineer reviewed it already. They said it's fine. So like, okay, so if I say it's not a good idea, then they're gonna say, like, well, your traffic engineer already said it was fine, so you're obstructing us now. Like,
But I mean, my feeling is we should just put in the PBO that until they say it's additional use to be done with it.
I think it might already be there, because I think you have the catch-all provision that Rob mentioned a moment ago. But I think, yes, I think you protect against that.
Those arguments correct, you protect against that, and if you don't permit it somewhere, you have that catch-all. I haven't reviewed it specifically, but if you permit it in that catch-all, then yes.
So
we don't have to do anything.
well, what you do is a total choice for you, it's policy choice. You could do nothing, and then you run that risk of in PBO, somebody could come and you could add it as a conditional use in PBO, and you get the additional requirements of with no other conditions. You could rely on the standard conditions, or you could add an array of conditions. Yeah,
this is a highly.
I would just.
Now, go ahead, Eric, I'm sorry.
I just want to add that as a matter of practice, it's virtually impossible for any data center to be placed within Easttown based on the sizing requirements that are necessary for data centers. Like we just don't have we don't have lots of the acreage that is needed for the large scale data centers that I think are cause for concern because they represent drains on the infrastructure of a township. So, you know, I think everyone's heart's in the right place. I don't see any practical need to even do this. It'd be like passing something about concentrated, feeding operations for livestock, right? Like that's not really a risk in Easttown because it's all suburbs. That's just kind of my perspective on this. It seems like kind of seems like a great idea, but in practice, not really going to affect Easttown.
county report would support that with the, specifies the range of sizes. And it would support what Eric just said, it's very unlikely. Very unlikely that there just aren't lots of that size.
I could put a very good data center on 100 acres. Guarantee it. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, but you don't have 100-acre.
There's a lot for sale for 100 acres.
I don't think there's any lot in PBO that's 100 acres.
No,
That doesn't mean that someone couldn't consolidate, create 100 acres. I think it's more of whether they would.
That land could be used.
Right, they would have to get a bunch of variances.
I just don't think it would have to be a giant science experiment for us to take positive action on this. Like if we would agree that this is a very residential township, we don't want or plan to have data centers in here. It would be fairly easy to just define a data center as a use, restrict its use in the township, vote on it, and it's done.
Yeah. Okay, so that's sort of, I think that's the level. If you want involvement, you wanted to determine that, hey, involvement at that level, not, like, we're not here now to say what it should be or what the setback should be. Certainly, no action is pretty reasonable. If you're sort of unified that you don't want extreme action. If you all think you want some kind of intervention that protects that belt suspenders kind of thing. A reasonable next step is for you to ask us to come back to you and tell you what could be some of those kind of low impact, low intensity changes to the code. It has to be what you all want, because this isn't our idea, this is what you all want.
I want somebody to look at our, that's the town saying, it's too much trouble, put the data center in there. I mean, it already is, right? It's too expensive.
No, I think that's surprising.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing and seeing from at least 3 that agree is that we will come back with some relatively simple, using your expression, some science experiment for this. And then, Eric, I promise you it will be respectful of your concern too. So what you said is heard loud and clear, and we will come back with what we think are some of those modest interventions that might help. Or maybe we'll tell you that we don't think anything will help and we shouldn't do it, something like that, but we'll come back with a little more specificity. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Is there any public comments?
Get going. Anthony Fulso, 2050 Grantham Road. I think the supervisors are very wise to think through this. I believe the demand is out there for the services of these data centers, and there's no doubt that while we're not the first choice, when the first choice doesn't become a choice, the second choice, the third choice could. And I personally think the technology will evolve into smaller situations, like little energy substations that we have today that transfer things. And so I think it's very wise to think through that, because the implications can be very different than we are hearing today. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness going into that.
Thank you. So any other public comment?
My name's Janet, so I live at 52 Lake Avenue. I came here specifically to find out if there are any plans for data centers, because I'm very worried about them. So I would like some certainty that they're not coming here.
So no plans that we're aware of.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about this that is intended to be in front of it. Or acutely in front of the plan. This is just a policy consideration. So.
Yeah. I would think that this area is not suitable for a data center because it is so residential, so dense, and I would be worried about the impact on the community. That was a one to be built, so if you prevent them from coming here, I would be very grateful.
Public comment?
Yeah, Dennis Collin on Darwood Lane. One of the others that, ask you to please consider not just the regulatory hurdles, but also the financial hurdles. You can set up the bonding requirements and things like that. A lot of times these data centers and these groups that are, coming in, they come in with great proposals, right? That look good on paper, but that's predicated on a 20 or 25-year horizon. And my recommendation is that as you're considering these hurdles and whatever you're gonna, kind of create and just thoughtful stuff, that you include things like an ROI guarantee, right? So that if they want to say, hey, it's a 25-year or 50-year benefit to the township, well, great. Just put your money where your mouth is, and that's a bond for 50 years at $1 million a year, right? And so just hold people accountable from a fiduciary perspective for the things that they're going to promise us when it happens.
Any other comment? I guess we'll wait to hear from you. That
That's fine.
Moving on to liaison reports.
There was one other item on.
Oh, I'm sorry, capital borrowing, my fault.
So nothing's new in that, the numbers are adjusting marginally, but those numbers aren't different than the numbers that I presented to you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago. It is coming to an actionable moment. So July, the expectation is that you'll have a parameters ordinance before you. And it will reflect these numbers. There still might be another round of adjustments to all, but they're not changing appreciably.
Don, what do you mean by parameters ordinance? I'm unfamiliar with the term.
So when they'll bring it to you, it'll be conditions and it'll have like a range.
A range.
Yeah,
Got it.
and presumably that's part of why, you'll have Tom Beckett there to ensure that the range is, the criteria is satisfied in a manner that protects your interests.
Got it. Thank you.
Sewer authority's not throwing anything at us. Sorry, I just feel like they keep throwing things at us.
And the library has not come back with any definite plans at this point.
Correct.
They're not in here, so.
Well, yeah, they're not, so they would, only you would put them in, so,
Right,
library.
You're still
here
waiting,
tonight,
you're still doing,
Yeah,
okay, all right, is there any other board comment on it? Any public comment? Okay, moving on to the liaison work group reports, the business association, we have not heard from recently, so hopefully at some point I'll hear back from them. Citizens Communication Advisory Board, Eric, that's you, right?
Yep. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but I did touch base with one of the members, and they're kind of progressing through some ideas that relates to social media use and township communications to the public, and trying to optimize, our public facing side. That's all I have to report. Thanks.
Magazine looks awesome, by the way. Been great.
The East Town Citizens Advisory Committee?
yeah, so that one, they do have, there's a report from them that was in your packet from ECAC. And some members are here to represent it. I'll sort of tee it up for you a little bit, that it started with a forecast, the very narrow question was, regarding the capacity to pay the debt service that's coming up. It sort of broadened more appropriately into forecasts and projections. So we discussed this at this group. You authorized or at ECAC to work to prepare forecasts and projections. We worked together. They took my forecast, they turned it into projections. Jim will talk about 3 scenarios that he ran. The conclusions in the front, the summary is sort of my conclusion of the data that, and I think, Jim will, no policy determinations here. You'll make that, but Jim will talk about the values that they've identified. And it's essentially the, you're collecting the EIT, among other things, that's going to create a surplus over a 5-year period. You have initiatives that will spend down that surplus. There's ample funds to proceed with the building in the way that you've described. There's ample fund to do other things. There are not ample funds to do the full array of things. So like all things in government, it's going to force you to make the difficult choices from the time it comes. So Jim, do you want to start with the slide? Is that
Yeah, if you want to go to just this page 6.
And Sue or John?
I'm pulling it up.
And thank you. I think that's a good summary that Don provided me. I don't know if you had an opportunity to review it or not, but we're not gonna go through all of it. But as Don said, I want to focus on the summary, add a little bit of commentary, and answer any questions you might have. We completely recognize that all forecasts are imperfect. They're going to end up being too high or too low. There's a lot of assumptions involved. We're not here to talk about the different assumptions and so forth. But we do think doing a longer term forecast than just the regular budget cycle is helpful. We wanted to try to identify some risks and trade-offs because we know there's a lot of things East Town would like to be able to do. As Don said, there are kind of 4 different things on there. The base case is if we don't make any decisions other than what's already in the pipeline and based on the forecast that Don provided over the next 5 years. It's really 2026 budget through 2031. So that's a very healthy scenario. The scenarios 1 and 2, I think, are very straightforward because they're completely within the board's control. Anything to do with the real estate tax reduction is a board of supervisors decision. The math is pretty straightforward. There's a margin of error related to, how much EIT comes in, but it's pretty cut and dry. And I just say the same for the debt service on a $14 million of the $18 million bond. It's just math and the interest rates and so forth. The scenario 3 is a little bit different because it's related to fire and fire and EMS. And at least our understanding is it's not entire. I mean, it's still a board decision, but it's a little bit outside of the complete control of the board, the way the new fire commission or fire department is to be set up. And that scenario is more one, again, Don, we worked with Don to come up with a range for what that might be. The scenario that's in there isn't a prediction of the future so much as a reasonable scenario that's within that range. And I guess the big message we want to get across there is we don't know what that cost is going to be over the next 5 years. Maybe less, maybe more, but it's not clear that it can be known at this point in time, based on where we are. We do think it is more than likely that fire expense, what's in the base case, is probably not right. It's almost certainly going to be something that's incremental. And then obviously, again, there's a high level of uncertainty and a lot less control given our understanding. I have a document, I don't know if I can get it in the record or not, but I can certainly speak to it, which is this: if you look at a what if scenario, where what if East Town goes forward with the debt service in scenario 2, and what if fire ends up being on that trajectory that's in scenario 3, we still have a cumulative surplus at the end of the 2031 period. Again, that's a projection with all the assumptions, et cetera. But that's still positive. The concern is if you look in 2029, the annual surplus flips to a very small deficit, and by 2031, it's a $500,000 deficit, and so that means the surplus is only going to last so long beyond that point in time. Obviously, if the costs end up being a lot higher, the surplus could go away quickly. So again, I'm not in a position, or I don't think ECAC's in a position to assign any kind of probability to what this fire expense would be, but that's why we're recommending that maybe we should have more information before we move forward with other major projects. We don't want to default into a situation where, all of a sudden we're financially handcuffed down, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years out because of fire. And kind of related to that is also what this is kind of a start of is having a longer term capital planning process. And I'm kind of new to ECAC just from the last year and a half, but I know we go through the budget stuff. But in terms of having a 5-year outlook, again, I know it's going to be wrong, but it helps at least identify decisions, priorities, et cetera, so that you all can discuss those and make informed decisions. So I don't know if Howard or Mike have anything to add to that from ECAC.
Just real quick, Howard House, 2037 Fox Street Road on ECAC. So as Jim was saying, one of the things we have is fire has already been, it's kind of been decided, it's going to happen, right? We don't know how big it's going to be, but it seems like it could be fairly sizable on the outside. It could be reasonable, but it's whatever that winds up being, it's going to constrain what else you do, and that's already coming. So if you add the building to it, we look like we might be in trouble a couple of years out in terms of starting to incur a deficit. So first of all, we wanted to put together a framework for conversations about how to think about all the projects that are available and are of interest to township, because I think they have value. And so the question is what comes first? And I think we know fire's coming down the track, and we don't know exactly how expensive it's going to be. So there's some alternatives that maybe the town could think about. What if, for example, you delay a project and you build up some of the surplus so you can do a down payment, which will reduce the bond issuance costs. So the things you can do where you can ladder things in, and that way you can be able to carry more projects. Then maybe if you said, we're just gonna start incurring capital projects now with no building up of any bank and no down payment. So there's all trade-offs. It's all about trade-offs. So just something to think about and a way to think about it.
And we hope this is helpful. We're also happy to help model some of those things if that would be useful to the board.
So I haven't been involved, in ECAC, but this is very helpful. I did a similar exercise like 3 or 4 years ago for the board. It was like long-term financial planning. I think I carried it out like to 15 years or something. Just it gets silly, right? Because you're projecting on top of projections and you're extrapolating out. It all becomes BS at a certain point. But I saw a lot of the same things that you saw, and one of the things that I did as well was I kind of looked in the past and looked in reverse, the previous 5 years or 10 years. And saw how fast were the expenses increasing by category. And fire and EMS and also police were increasing way more than the average. The average increase was like 3, 4, 5%. I forget exactly what it was, depending on the timeline you're looking at. Fire and EMS was like, it was going parabolic basically. It was like 20 to 30% increases per year. Now that should slow down, but at the same time, like the numbers that you have in here for TE Fire Department, like this could still be an underestimation of what the number looks like. I mean, we had thrown out there a couple of years ago that it might be like $3 million a year that we end up spending on fire and EMS. Like that's a real number. If you get a continuing decline of volunteerism and increase in the costs of apparatus and staff and building operations, everything, like it's $3 million a year plus. So all this is great information. Like the one thing that I want to continue doing, it might be helpful for you guys to do as well, if it's possible, is like a sensitivity analysis. Like take each one and see like, all right, let's create a bear case, bull case, and base case for each of them and see, like, make the sliders and see how crazy or how, modest it could get. Something like that is helpful. So if for nothing else than just planning and coming up and making decisions, I think this is helpful at least for me. So thank you. Great.
No, I mean, I've been through the numbers.
Yeah, it's very.
It's very,
Really appreciate it.
make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
So you're gonna have a choice in July, to proceed with at least one of these as that middle number. There's no issue. I don't think anyone would argue that, with the sufficiency or the capability, it's the choice that they might argue if you'll have that capability should you decide to proceed. In here, I did say, in my opinion, is it's a good time to pause because you have uncertainty on the revenue side with EIT. That should wrap up and you should have decent certainty, but right now you still don't even have one full data point for EIT. And then you have that tremendous uncertainty in fire. So we put in the number that's in this represents 2.7 million. That's a million more. And that's just a safe estimate. It's not your high extreme estimate. So you should learn more about EIT in the next few months. You should learn, I don't think fire is going to come in the next few months, but
Maybe late next year, we'll get a sense of where it's going.
So, and then in the meantime, if you recall, you had a discussion about, should you titrate EIT with real estate, so that they do this. You chose not to, you implemented the EIT. So one of the ramifications and the outcomes of that is the reserve fund. So you are developing, you are doing what Howard identified, you're just not doing it as fast. And you'll still do that. If you build the building, you'll still do that. You'll just do it less fast because you'll be paying debt service on a handful of projects. And I have one other little item. Just when you're talking about a government forecast, the word deficit, I know it sounds, but if you just hold real estate tax flat, by definition, you have to have a deficit in year 5. So it's not quite it's not like a company that, hey, well, deficit is really alarming. Deficit is an artifact of having your baseline reflect 0 tax increase. And that would be the case if you went back in time and you did this. Every projection would end in deficit unless you have a built-in tax increase, which some would say is a good idea, some would say it's a bad idea. I think I prefer the idea of, hey, here's what we need to increase the taxes when the demand is represented.
From a policy standpoint, I agree, but our township went, 12 years without a tax increase on property taxes. And listen, I understand wanting to hold property taxes as low as reasonably achievable. It was, in my opinion, a cowardly choice to continue to just defer the problem hand up.
So what you'll get from that now is what you'll get is with EIT will escalate to some degree by itself,
Right.
with salary. And then instead of, you'll still have to, and if you don't escalate property taxes, you will have deficits in the tail of your projections as an artifact of the process. Presumably the amount can be different. The percent might have to be the same. We'll see how that goes, but it'll be a net reduction in the amount that you have to get because some of the revenue is escalating automatically.
But that's how we wound up in this mess, was we had these very lumpy tax increases, like basically 10 years apart, right? They didn't increase anything in the, early to mid 2000s, and then 09 or 2010, whatever it was, poof, huge increase, right? And then nothing for 10, 12 years, and a huge increase. And it's like, it just always seemed like it just makes more sense just to have a little 2% increase every year. Just a general thing of matching inflation, not falling behind, and it just stays. So that's a policy choice.
Yeah, and that's one that you'll have to make now because your cash will support you lowering real estate if you choose to do that. Again, that's a policy choice for you. You could keep it the same, you could escalate it, you could decide you're gonna start escalating it in that gradual manner in the future. You're in transition, you're in flux as EIT comes in fully realized. You brought the real estate taxes down. You're not in an equilibrium, you're still generating more cash than expenses at this point.
Right.
Fire department's really administrative.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we have two specific, we have several, but two that I'm thinking about is the library and fire. I think library covers most of their expenses, but we put some into the general fund, right? Does fire cover all of its expenses, or do we add some from the general fund? The fire.
Well, so the fire fund, you're not putting anything from the general fund into,
So the fire fund covers everything.
yeah, but the fire fund is not, the fire fund is a combination of village and urban tax.
Oh, it is current, yeah.
Yes, it's not, and so is the library.
Right,
So
right.
those
I know
are
the
all
library
good policy
does, yeah.
choices if you wanted
Right.
to,
We could sort of.
hey, fire cost 9 millage you assign, but you'd have to raise the millage for all of those if you chose to do that.
That's something we could do to clarify what we're doing. Because clearly when we had the discussion about the activity, everybody's happy to, using village to pay for the fires and get off they accept this thing. Maybe we could re-trigger, so that's, I don't, yeah, it doesn't change.
The money's fungible, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. Okay.
But it means that we might not end up with this stuff, so we might be able to raise the millage to cover that and justify it as we're doing that to cover fire.
All right, so you're gonna get in 2027. Now, things aren't moving fast enough for you to have a dramatically different budget in 2027. If you proceed with the borrowing, so that's, you would presumably obligate that once you approve the parameters limits, then that becomes embedded in the budget, and it would just consume that first part of the strong cash flow that Jim talked about a moment ago. It would still leave you sizable cash flow to do the other things, but you are already pressing up against choices. Okay, I think we represented it well. You guys have anything to add?
Unless you have other questions.
And comfortable with how it was represented, it seems very good. Yeah. So very, very helpful. They've been wonderful to work with on this and other projects. So I'm very grateful for the help you provided.
I missed this one. Sorry. I gotta catch up with Joe. Find out what happened.
Relocate, it was just bills.
Okay.
Missing, I think that's Susan. Anybody have any favor of the city?
In your consent agenda, there's the tree planting plan for this year. Just minor modifications to where they're aiming to plant, but they're gonna plant more trees. That they're normal projects that they've been working on. We're getting them in bubbles up to your level. So, lots of good projects though.
Finance worker?
We'll be meeting tomorrow. Yes, forgot. We need, we're meeting this week. Do you have any meetings?
Meeting Wednesday.
Tomorrow. We're meeting this Wednesday, yes, yes.
HC, finally, my schedule's finally calmed down, so I missed the last one, but update on
They did some reviews for, the historic survey is, gonna be underway shortly, the consultant that was chosen is, getting ready to do field work. So the expectation at the end of June, first week of July, we'll do a joint announcement with the police department to let people know that, survey crews from JMC will be out there in their yellow vests the right away. That's underway, and it's a big discussion about how to incorporate the new survey results in, and whether some zoning changes might be warranted to better model the best practices the state uses. These types of things. So we'll have some more ideas for you probably next month on that topic. And then they have two markers that they're working on with the goals of getting them at least ordered this month.
Great. Thank you. Library met the 27th. There is there's an update on a update from Amber. But what we had is Brian, the Y director, came in to discuss how the library and Y is partner. They approved the needs assessment, and they're still talking to the school district, but there were no other topics. They're waiting until after graduation, and they're talking about the next steps after the feasibility study. So that was. We have any other dates?
Oh, thanks, Sean. Just a few, to let everyone know, the summer reading program is underway at the library, and that is not just for children, it is for adults too. So I'm gonna plug, go into the website for the library, check it out. There's a lot of very rich programming related to that this summer, in addition to some programming for the America 250 celebration. And we have once again been approved for a flight from grant, or excuse me, a grant from flight to purchase summer reading materials for the school district, so that we have plenty of those available for students to borrow and buy. And the only other thing is we're gonna have a summer blowout book sale Saturday, June 27th. Bring your own bag, $10, fill it up with books, movies, music, and that's the Friends of East Town Library sponsoring that. So swing by and see us if you don't have your summer reading as of yet. So I think that's great. And thanks, appreciate it. That all happened since the meeting, so. Yeah.
Awesome. There's stuff going on.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec. Susan.
General question on Parks and Rec, are they gonna have a chance to look at the building assessment in terms of park or anything, playground type of stuff?
Yeah, they have the Parks and Rec group. So they, the architect did a presentation for them last month.
Yeah, so we,
Both the historic commission and Parks and Rec have seen the renderings.
Perfect. We'll get their input and all that stuff.
we
Perfect.
ran it through the staff too, so it reflects input from those three groups. And it's arguably ready to come back to you, probably in July is the plan for a touch point in July. With adjusted cost, presumably to have it before you make the decision about parking.
Great. Both HC and PRV were receptive. So
Perfect, thank you.
So.
Thank you, Kurt. Anybody? That was it.
No.
I mean, I don't think they met. Planning Commission. That was
Susan.
Not here. Any PC update? No.
They're just working through all the, you've got the Old Lancaster project, you've got the LSA project, you've got the Devon Vision project. So they're working through them. And those are they're working their way through you, so I got a touch point on them, I believe, at the July meeting on some of those items. So it's all happening as per the initial plan the things you told them to evaluate.
Great. Place worker.
Last Tuesday or Thursday, yeah, one of those days last week. basically, we approved a number of things to purchase. They received a ton from the EA. So they're slowly working their way through spending that. They give it, we approved it. So that's all good stuff. And as everybody knows, last day was, so Mike is in his stead as the acting chief. Okay.
Great. The Public Works Work Group.
We met on June 11th. The paving for the summer was supposed to start yesterday, right? It did.
Yeah.
Today's Monday, yes, today. And it should take about 30 days to finish. We talked about a number of things about roads and keeping them clear and all that kind of stuff. And then we talked about the parks, maintenance of the parks. And one thing I don't know, we have this thing called Hollywood. It's used to be I call it the old sewer system. The old sewer plant was there, but now it's a park, and we might want to designate it as such. So no one asked the Parks and Rec Board to consider that, adding and maybe even the EMA to make sure, because it's their property. So we would need to figure out something with them.
Yeah, so I think it would be if that's something you're interested in, it would be the start of a conversation with those two groups.
Right.
It's 8 acres, it's beautiful, it's remote, it won't be a destination, it's just not big enough, no one will travel to go there. It's had passive use from surrounding neighbors. The thought is to increase that, to facilitate that sort of passive use. And like the way you added, the way you formalize that with Sharp's Woods, would you want to formalize that with this piece? So
right.
The starting point would just be 2 conversations, conversation at the EMA, conversation at the PRB. If you thought that was a bad idea, tell us, save us the effort. If you thought, okay, it's worth a conversation, then we would proceed to 2 conversations then.
Turning East Town to a 4-park township.
Okay.
Everybody gets it. Yeah, that was that.
Stormwater management.
Smack it and make, they have a quorum?
Yeah, they had a quorum. Mostly talked about, PRP 3, and we're waiting on guidance from. So the nutshell is township dissatisfied by the options available to it, waiting on further guidance from DEP to see if other options present themselves. DEP has indicated that no more guidance is forthcoming for a good year or so. And I think the township's opinion is to simply wait for the further guidance. So unless you tell us otherwise, we're just gonna tap the brakes and wait.
Sounds reasonable.
Jay, anything you want to add? to
No,
that?
perfect summation done.
Thanks, Jay.
We got sidetracked on the ECAC. I have one of the other thing to report about ECAC. We had 2 members of the public show up at the ECAC meeting, which may be the first time that we've ever had a member of the public at an ECAC meeting. So, and I encourage everybody to come to ECAC meetings.
You're doing a great job. You've increased public participation 1,000-fold.
You're able to help them?
Yeah, we'll get some of their things resolved. All good.
All right. Public comment? Does anybody have public comment?
Sorry, I had to step out. Can you start over again?
I'd like to make some more public comment, Anthony Polselli again.
Yeah.
A couple different things I heard, and I apologize, I can't articulate it all that well, but in regards to the discussion of ECAP's report on potential spending of the IT monies. I've been thinking about it for a couple months, and then most recently this week, seeing some of the reports being posted. And a couple thoughts that I had as a resident, and let me clarify, I do not know the condition of this building. I don't know the condition and serving the needs of the community, so I at least want to be fair on that. And as I heard, there's some unknowns around fire costs and general unknowns. So the way I looked at the EIT, I thought it was smart what was mentioned here about really we only have a year of data behind what can come in, and certainly those numbers will stabilize. As I've thought about this, I think we have a very unique opportunity to use the EIT to do a couple things for the community. One of which is to diversify the tax base in the long run. So today, you know, it's incremental revenue, it hasn't really reduced the property taxes yet, but as time goes on, if that incremental revenue is retained, it can have that effect to give more levers to the supervisors, right? So if we continue to use it perhaps to pay down debt service or to reduce future borrowings, I think it reduces what I'll call the base draw on the taxes that come in. And I think that's really unique if we're patient over time to retain those monies, because it can reduce those costs and then give you relief to, you know, more retired citizens in the community. So to me, I see retention of those funds as a guaranteed return. You take that out of the market, whatever the borrowing costs are of our community, that is a guaranteed return if we don't borrow with the monies that we put towards whether it's capital projects or paying down existing debt service. And then as I think about the building, again, can't speak to this building, but I don't think we should ignore the macro community that we operate in. You're in charge of, you know, the community, but obviously the school board has had made decisions on building schools and taking on what I'll call fixed costs through the construction of a 6th elementary school recently. So when I think about all that, I definitely consider the draw on the base. The same community is supporting multiple efforts. And so to me, anything we can do to reduce our overall borrowings and wisely invest future borrowing into creative ways to accomplish all of the above is very appealing to me. And whether that's, again, purchasing different land that has buildings that can be used, or, you know, I don't say office buildings because I don't think we have any in the township to repurpose, but my point being, and apologies, long-winded here, the more patience, I think we're going to be able to achieve everything. And that's why I echo a lot of what the ECAC said, is if you know, a lot of good fortune comes our way and we don't have instant demands, this money, whether saved or paying down debt, it gives you the flexibility to, at the moment where you most need it, to borrow, if that's to build the building then, versus rushing in and reducing your options. And that's what I heard in the recommendation today, was flexibility. And I thought that, I just want to nod that I am very supportive of patience and giving yourself all the opportunities to maybe achieve all if we get some good luck. So great. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
So a quick question, Mike Novak from 2058 Box Creek Road. When will the decision be made on the debt service, like whether you go through it or not?
If the intention is it's a July parameters ordinance, so July, the decision will be in July.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean they have to do it in July, but it's been scheduled. That's what we talked about for months. We've been talking about that. So the intention at this point is to have a parameters ordinance before you at the July.
Or does that mean a decision at the July meeting?
Yes, well,
Information
decision,
beforehand.
yeah, so the opportunity for a decision, but the decision isn't preordained. So the schedule is they will have a parameters ordinance before them at the July meeting. Nobody's telling us otherwise. We have been talking about that for months, so that's the plan at this point. Yes.
Thank you.
Or any other public comments?
I had one, Dennis Connell from Dogwood Lane. I had sent the supervisors a proposal earlier in the month of June. I have printed copies, I only made 6, so I don't know how to get them into the record or if anybody actually wants to put them in, but there's a property for sale on Sugartown Road that's coming to market. You talked about there's no 100-acre property, it's actually a 110-acre parcel right in the heart of Berwyn, that is of Eastham Township, that's coming up for sale. And you know, like, so obviously selfishly I live around there, so it's meaningful, but really what got me thinking about this was the walkability of our township. And about how there, you know, I got daughters that are 11, 9, 5, right? There's no way for them to really get to Handles from, you know, past the whatever. Yeah, there's no safe way to get there, right? You got to go on Waterloo, it's dangerous. This is a 110-acre parcel that abuts Johnson Park to the north, right, and brings you all the way down to Sugartown. It is, if we were ever to have a walkable town, right, this would have to be the parcel that connects all those different pieces, whether it's the Lenape neighborhoods, whether it's up towards Handles, whether it's down towards Tony's house, down that way by Grantham. This would have to be the centralized piece. It is a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity, 110-acre parcels. with, and I don't know the full backstory, but apparently there are deeded restrictions that they can't build more than 5 units on the parcel, and there's already 4 on there, which makes it very difficult for a developer to go buy it for $30 million. My initial just thinking is there's just not a ton of buyers for 110 acres in the heart of Berwyn for one additional house. And the thought process would be, could the township do something creative here? This is something that, obviously we're talking about how do we fund the fire department, right? And that's a real challenge. But are there creative ways that we could come up with funding? And I did a little bit of research here. There's luxury development taxes, there's demolition tax, there's open space preservation fees. There's lots of really creative ways, that we could create incremental small dollar charges on things like knocking down a house and rebuilding a new one. Every time you turn around, there's another $2 million house for sale. Well, a $5,000 fee on that, 11,000 times a year, right? Kind of makes enough money pretty quick. My ask is to the supervisors, would there be any interest in whatever board or whatever it is to look into this, right? Could we take a step to try and figure out if this would be possible? I don't even know if that is the procedure, but figure I'd come here and ask.
It is certainly a topic of discussion. I read your email. I appreciated it. It's certainly, it's a big chunk of change, obviously, from the, sticker price that's on it. And that's really the concern. It's not impossible. But you got to move a lot of stuff around. And as we were talking about tonight with ECAC, and there's a lot of competing demands for dollars. So it's, if we do something like that and spend a lot doing this, what does that take away from somewhere else? And that's really the concern. But I share your sentiment that this is a very unusual property to come on the market. It would be silly to not evaluate options.
My request would be if there was a volunteer group that would look into state grants, federal grants, county money, figure things out. Would that be an acceptable approach so that no money is actually being taken from township operations to investigate the options? Or would you not want to pursue it just on principle or just in general?
That's actually similar to Willistown. They have a Willistown conservation. I don't know whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And then so the citizens and other interested parties who get involved in land acquisition for the township.
Is it limited to Willistown or do they extend beyond Willistown?
They're just I think they're currently just Willistown, but I think it's one of those. Right. I think it's something we could talk about if that was.
Without going too far, I'd be happy to make phone calls and volunteer to make a couple phone calls and figure out, but I obviously didn't want to start calling people and saying, on behalf of the township, can we do this? But
Please don't.
Yeah, that would be appropriate. But if there's an appropriate way to do that, I'd be happy to, try and get a couple people to help out with that. But I just thought it would be something that would be, a nice thing to do for the township on kind of.
It's an incredible property. That's an amazing idea. It's something for that. That's right in the center of everything too.
And the house that's on there could be an event space.
It's not a once in a lifetime because it happened. What was it, 8-9 years ago? And I necessarily.
Yeah.
There we go. So
2010.
2010. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever the time duration is, right? They don't come up.
No,
they don't
it's not very often.
Doesn't come up every
used to
day.
be able to walk
Yeah.
through I lived up in Dogwood Lane.
Yeah. It's so.
It's unique because it's adjacent to Johnson Park.
Yes.
That's the unique nature of it as well.
That's right.
That part, the beginning of these discussions have to be with the owner, so where their head is.
Yeah, we literally saw something on Redfin come up and everybody in my street started going bananas on it, thinking what's this thing gonna be? Is this, gonna be a data center,
Yeah, to be a data center, could they snap it up and put a data center?
Well, I don't know.
If they want to spend that much money,
I doubt
the zoning probably doesn't work. But
It's big money and.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are on that, but it was the thought process of could we play a little bit more offense than defense as a township, as a community. So.
point well taken.
Yeah. So I'll look to you guys to tell me if that's kosher to reach out and ask somebody or what the process would be to try and do something, but that'd be great. Appreciate your consideration.
Also, is there any lessons learned from the 2010? I know it's a while ago, but yeah, I remember there was a lot of community involvement then. There were other options thrown out there at the time, and so I don't know if we can find anything about that, but it might be helpful.
Our solicitor had a lot of lessons learned in that process.
All right.
So, yes. Yes.
Probably the starting point is, he's looking for a conversation with Willis Town, would be a starting point in conversation.
Yeah, but how did they get
Yeah, and then my sense is that when tracts of this size change ownership, it doesn't come organically. It isn't the people around it buy it. It's large amounts of federal, state, and county money to do that. The scale is too large for, little old East Town. So that would be, that's where I would start, that kind of conversation with the people of Willis Town that do this all the time.
Yeah.
About how do they leverage big sources of money for expensive parcels in Willis Town.
Yeah, okay. Great. Yeah.
No, it sounds great.
Yeah.
We can't we just don't have the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out how we.
And it does run a completely afoul of conversation of 5 minutes before. Great irony of,
Yeah.
hey, wait, we gotta see where the money comes in, and then the next item on the agenda is, hey, who's got $30 million? I think that's called democracy. I think that's why we're a great country, so.
Should we pass the hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to sell a lot of flowers to generate $30 million.
Or a big bake sale.
Yeah, big stuff.
May I ask a clarifying question, just for your, right here? Is this land restricted for the use that it's being used for today? Yes.
This land,
Deed restricted, yes.
It can only be used for township roads. And it's only allowed.
we can only use it. I don't know, if you're converted back, I don't know if it.
Yeah, there's clawback clauses, but it's deeded for municipal and public uses.
So I was trying to get you a new building, I was gonna sell this land, build a new one on the 100 acres.
Now, at that point, it reverts back to a different.
I think Agnes Irwin had that idea too, and it didn't work out.
Thank you.
For announcement, you have exec session.
Yes, we do have an exec session to discuss
Legal.
and personnel chart.
Personnel.
Personnel, yeah. Just a note that was brought up, we do have some concerts. John, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention during Parks and Rec, we have our first summer concert this coming Wednesday. We're trying to get at the new venue, which is the Bronze Plaza. So right in the middle of your town, the landowner there has been very agreeable working with us to host the same sort of layout as the Farmers Market, closing off sections of it for pedestrian safety. But that concert starts at 7 o'clock this Wednesday and then 7 o'clock next Wednesday. And then since you're not gonna have a meeting between now and July 4th, we also have our annual July 4th at Johnson Park. Also concert, bike parade, barbecue, etc. So just want to make sure that was out there.
Yes, thank you. So upcoming meetings and events are listed on our website.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mark.
Where do you live on Dogwood? I used to live on the corner of Dogwood and